So today, we're going to dive into one of Alan Watts's most incredible ideas. This fundamental question about the nature of our existence. Is life a journey, something with a destination? Or is it actually more like a song? Let's start right here. Have you ever just stopped for a second, looked around and thought, you know, this whole thing, being alive, the universe, it's just kind of weird, isn't it? Well, if you've ever felt that, you're in great company. The philosopher Alan Watts said that very feeling, that fundamental sense of oddness, was the real starting point for his own philosophical journey. He didn't see it as something to brush aside. He saw it as the beginning of a really deep inquiry. Okay, so once that feeling hits you, Watts called it a philosophical itch, what do? Well, you try to scratch it, right? You start asking questions, you go hunting for some kind of answer that makes sense of it all. And that itch, it kind of leads you down this rabbit hole of questions. First, you might ask, why? Why is all this here? But that's a tough one, maybe even a meaningless question. So you get a bit more practical. You ask, okay, how is it so? And that's the scientific question, right? That's about measurement and observation. But even that eventually pushes you to the biggest, deepest question of all. What is all of this anyway? But here's where we hit a wall, a real logical trap. Think about it. To say what something is, you have to be able to say what it isn't. This is a cup, not a plate. It's in this group, not that one. But what happens when you try to classify, well, everything, the whole universe? What's on the outside to compare it to? There's nothing. You can't put it in a box because it is the box. And you know what's wild? This isn't just philosophy. Modern physics basically ran into the exact same problem. They went looking for the ultimate stuff that everything is made of, and they realized it was a dead end. The question itself was the problem. So if the universe isn't really made of stuff, what in the world are we looking at? This forced a huge pivot in thinking, a move away from substance and towards something else: pattern, form. And Watts has this perfect analogy for it. He says it's like you're turning up the dial on a super powerful microscope. As you zoom in and in and in, anything that looks solid, anything that looks like stuff, just starts to dissolve. And what's left behind? An incredible, intricate pattern. Let's actually do that for a second. Imagine you're looking at a carpet. Seems solid, right? But you zoom in, oh, it's just threads. Zoom in on the threads, and you see these amazing crystalline structures. Zoom in even more, and now you're at the level of molecules. And if you could just keep going, it all just dissolves into what Watts playfully called waveables. Pure energy, pure pattern. The stuff is gone. It was never really there to begin with. And this is where science and ancient wisdom just beautifully collide. There's this Sanskrit word, maya. Its root, matra, literally means to measure, to create patterns, to create form. Now, we usually translate maya as illusion, but that's not quite right. It's more like creative power, or even play. In fact, the Latin word for illusion, ludere, means to play. It's as if the universe is just playing at being all these different forms. So this whole idea of a playful, creative pattern, it leads us right to the central metaphor of this whole thing. If the universe isn't a collection of objects, but this dynamic, unfolding form, what's the best way to even think about it? Well, Watts says, think of it as music. Just think about your favorite song for a minute. What's the point of the song? Is it to get to the final chord? Of course not. That would be silly. The point of the song is the song, the entire experience of it unfolding. Watts argues the universe is exactly like that. It doesn't have some far-off goal or external meaning. The meaning is right here, right now, in the playing of it. And to really hammer this home, he does this brilliant little trick with language. He says we should turn our nouns into verbs. See, the universe isn't just a pile of static things. It's a process. It's all action. A tree isn't just a noun. It's treeing. The stars are starring. And us, we're not just people. We are peopling. We're verbs, not nouns. So, if life is this beautiful song, why do so many of us feel so stressed out? Why does it feel like a struggle, a journey we have to endure? And this is where the philosophy gets really practical and hits close to home. The problem is we completely forget that we're a process. We get so attached to our particular form, this body, this personality, this life story, and we become absolutely obsessed with making it go on forever. We treat ourselves like this static object that needs to be protected at all costs, instead of a dynamic verb that's constantly flowing. And this creates a nasty little psychological trap called a double bind. This is when you command yourself to do something that can only really be done spontaneously. Like telling yourself, you must live, or you have to be happy. It's like someone telling you a joke and then shouting, laugh, you must laugh now. It just creates all this tension, right? You're trying to force something that only works when it flows. And that's the core of the issue, right there. By constantly focusing on surviving, on getting to the next thing, on reaching that final note, we completely miss the music. We're always convinced that the real payoff, the real happiness, is just around the corner. And because of that, we miss the present moment, which is, the only place where reality is actually happening.
Watts really doesn't mince words on this one. He says, only suckers put hope in the future. It's blunt for sure, but the point is powerful. When we bank all our happiness on tomorrow, we rob ourselves of the richness that's available today. The point isn't the destination, it's the dance.
And that really is what this all comes down to. If life isn't some journey where the goal is at the end, but a song that's meant to be enjoyed right now, then the most important question isn't where am I going? The question is about the music you're making in this very moment. What kind of song, what kind of a dance are you peopling right now?